Recording in progress.
Chair Ebnetter, we are ready to begin. Chair Ebnetter, Vice Chair Patel,
Here.
Commissioner Nugent,
Present.
and Commissioner Williams is absent today.
Thank you. This is a regular meeting. It's conference ID 883-5773-9291, and the passcode is 340978. Good evening and welcome. We are excited to be here in person with options for virtual participation. For those attending in person, complete a yellow request to speak slip and hand it to the clerk. If participating remotely, use the raise your hand feature in Zoom and you will be called on at the appropriate time. If calling in via phone, press *9 to raise your hand, and when called upon, press *6 to unmute. These options for public comment will remain available until I close the public comment period for that specific item. And finally, we welcome speakers providing public comment, but please be advised this is a limited public forum. As such, speakers must stay on topic if speaking to a particular agenda item. If speakers fail to follow these rules, they will be warned, and if they continue to disregard our rules, their opportunity to speak will be ended. Next on the agenda is public comment period. Members of the public wishing to comment on any item not appearing on the agenda may address the Planning Commission at this time. State law prevents the Commission from taking action on any matter on the agenda. Your comments may be referred to staff for follow-up. Public comment is generally limited to a total of 15 minutes. However, that is subject to the Commission's discretion and can be extended if the Commission wishes to do so. Are there any public commenters at this time on non-agendized items?
Through the chair, there are no public comments at this time.
Okay, we will close that. And can you please introduce the study session?
Item 1 is 922 South Claremont Avenue, pre-application review for a new self-storage facility, PA 2023-046.
Thank you. We will start with the staff presentation, applicant presentation, and public comments. Once the public comment period is closed, the chair may ask staff to respond to any public comments, and the commission will ask clarifying questions, deliberate, and provide input and guidance to staff. This item is a study session, so there will be no action taken on this item. We are ready for the presentation. Ms. Richstone?
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. Hello? Great. Sorry. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Laura Richstone, Associate Planner with the Community Development Department, and tonight I will be providing an overview of the proposed self-storage facility pre-application before us tonight. Main topics of this presentation will include the project's compliance with regulations, both local and state, and an overview of the project's design. The project site is located at 922 South Claremont Street. On the left, the project site is highlighted in blue with the red location marker. It is zoned M1 for manufacturing and located outside of the designated downtown area, which is that pink shading, as well as in between the half-mile Caltrain buffers for the downtown and Hayward Park Caltrain stations. The illustration on the right shows that the project has a service commercial / light industrial land use designation, which is highlighted in the pink, and that it is surrounded by residential and mixed-use land use classifications. At a more granular level, the 1.3-acre corner lot is bounded by Railroad Avenue, South Claremont, and 10th Avenue, and it has access from 2 driveways, one on 10th Avenue and one on South Claremont Street. Existing development on site, which you can see more clearly in the bottom picture, includes 3 single-story warehouse structures, as well as a freestanding cellular tower adjacent to the South Claremont driveway. Several automobile repair / storage businesses currently operate out of the project site, and the existing warehouse structures were built in the 1930s by PG&E and are considered eligible for listing as a historic resource under CEQA. This will be discussed further on in the presentation as well. Adjacent development seen in the top picture consists of 1 to 2-story light industrial and warehouse buildings and the railroad tracks to the west. The nearest residential R2 development is located either across the railroad tracks or along South Delaware to the east. The applicant has proposed to establish a 78,964 square foot self-storage facility at the project site. This includes the retention and adaptive reuse of the existing structures on site to convert them into self-storage, as well as the construction of a 4th new structure. This 4th new structure would be 2 stories plus a basement and provide 854 square feet of self-storage and would be attached to the northernmost structure on the project site. 20 off-street parking spaces as well as 2 loading zones would also be provided along a drive aisle that bisects the site. And the existing cellular tower mentioned before along South Claremont would be retained due to active long-term carrier leases on that structure. The following slides will outline the project's conformance with local and state regulations. So as stated previously, the site has a 2040, which is the new general plan land use designation of service commercial / light industrial, and it is zoned M1 for manufacturing. Self-storage facilities are contemplated under the general plan land use designation and are a use allowed by right, meaning without the need for a use permit under the M1 zoning district. Regarding the application of local development standards, the project meets all height, setback, loading, and parking standards. However, as currently proposed, the project does not meet FAR or bicycle parking standards. A 1.03 FAR is proposed where 1.0 is the maximum, and 14 bicycle spaces are proposed where 19 are required. The additional FAR, and thus the additional parking requirements for bicycles, stem from the structure's 2nd-story cantilever over the parking area, which per city standards counts towards FAR. The applicant was informed that this area counts towards their FAR in the pre-application letter dated in February of this year. Regarding applicable master plans that apply to this area, the 2020 or 2012 citywide pedestrian master plan recommends a minimum sidewalk width of 11 feet along Railroad, 10th, and South Claremont. The high-level plans given in the pre-application did not include sidewalk sections, which is normal. These more detailed plans would be provided during the planning application formal stage, and staff would evaluate consistency with the pedestrian master plan at that time. The 2020 bicycle master plan anticipates a class 3 bicycle boulevard meaning where bicycles share the road with the car, along the Railroad Avenue frontage. The applicant would either be required to construct the bicycle boulevard or demonstrate that the project doesn't inhibit the future installation of that boulevard. But again, similar to the sidewalks, further evaluation would occur during formal application. As a part of a separate development proposal for the site that never came to fruition, the 3 warehouse structures mentioned before were built by PG&E in the 1930s and were identified as a eligible historic resource based on a 2016 historic resources evaluation. Per this HRE, the structures serve as a reminder of San Mateo's role as a regional center and contain similar character-defining features, which are listed here and include corrugated metal siding, gabled roofs, hip monitors, multi-pane sash windows, and other features. And that 2016 HRE was included as an attachment in the agenda report. So the first iteration of this project proposed the removal of one of these eligible historic structures. You can see that on the picture right here. However, upon coordination with staff, the applicant revised their proposal to retain all structures on site, which includes, the red highlighted structure, and it also included reducing the project by approximately 2,700 square feet in order to keep all structures. So proposal 2, which is the proposal in front of you today, retains all structures on site. And a full CEQA analysis, including an updated HRE, historic resources evaluation, to evaluate the new structure and the scope of repair to the existing structures against the Secretary of Interior standards, would occur during the formal planning application phase. The following slides will focus on requested Planning Commission discussion items revolving around the project's site plan, building design, and other project aspects. So looking at an enlarged picture of the site plan, the existing buildings, building A, the red, B, the blue, and C, the purple, will be retained. The 4th new structure, building D, highlighted in green, is attached to building A. This new structure provides a 15-foot landscape setback from Railroad Avenue and a 10-foot setback from the northern property line. And as mentioned before, a drive aisle highlighted in orange bisects the project site and has an exit only onto 10th Avenue and an exit and entrance onto South Claremont. The 2nd story of the new structure cantilevers over 14 of the 20 parking spaces provided over the drive aisle, which we mentioned before counts as FAR to the project site. So this slide provides a perspective from 10th Avenue. At the forefront, you can see 2 existing structures, the single-story structures, and then the taller proposed structure in the rear. This provides a perspective from South Claremont, and you can see where that arrow is to kind of guide yourself. You can see similarly the 2 existing structures in the forefront, building B and building A, and the new structure in the rear, as well as the retained cellular tower next to the South Claremont driveway. Looking at the project from the Railroad Avenue frontage, we can see that the structure, the new 4th structure, building D on the left, and the existing retained structure, building C on the right. So the overall architectural style of the new fourth structure on site is best characterized as industrial, and this is based on its rectangular massing, uniform building height, and proposed materials. And as you can kind of see, the design takes inspiration from the existing structures on site and includes sloping corrugated metal roofing with hipped roof monitors, divided light windows, corrugated metal siding on the second story, and metal roll-up doors and light-colored stone siding on the first story. And there's also a dark belly band that separates the first and the second stories to break up the massing of the building and provide a transition between these two materials. Based on the project's preliminary design, staff is asking or seeking Planning Commission input on the project site plan, specifically the placement of the new structure in relationship to the surrounding context. We are also seeking input on the project's overall architectural style, its design, massing, and transition to other buildings, as well as any other aspects of the project that the commission would like to discuss. Regarding public input and next steps, the applicant held a formal pre-application neighborhood meeting on April 30th, in which 3 members of the public attended, but did not provide comment. And as of this evening, staff has not received any additional public comment on this item. Next steps for this project are to revise the plans based on planning staff recommendations for FAR and bicycle parking, any comments from the Planning Commission, and any public input received tonight, and then to file a formal planning application subject to the Commission's approval for, at minimum, a site plan and architectural review planning application. And then, once again, during the formal planning application, further environmental and historic review would also commence at that time. That concludes staff's presentation, and we will be here if you have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Is there a applicant presentation?
Oh. I was curious how we might do this. Oh, perfect. Should I just get going? Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Kang. I'm with Staley Point Capital. We're the project applicant for this project on Claremont. I've been working diligently with Laura here for the last several months, and as she has mentioned, made quite a few changes. So she's already explained the project better than probably I can. So what I'll do here is maybe introduce ourselves as a firm, what we're hoping to accomplish here, and hopefully we could get some good feedback, make revisions as needed, and submit an application, hopefully that is in favor and in compliance with what you guys have as comments. So Staley Point Capital, we're based in Los Angeles, so we flew in from Southern California this morning. We are primarily industrial and self-storage focused with a lot of history, in particular working on historical rehab projects similar to this project on Claremont Street. So here's just a sample selection of projects that we've completed in the past. We have a lot of experience working in self-storage, particularly renovating existing buildings. Kevin Staley, who's our managing partner and founder, he's seated behind me, and he particularly has decades of experience working on historical renovation throughout the state. We hope to bring that kind of vision and that competence to hopefully deliver a kind of industry-leading product for the city of San Mateo. As Laura mentioned, we're about a mile away from downtown San Mateo, existing site, 1.36 acres, that we hope to renovate and add on to another building. As she mentioned, this is a former PG&E site, picture from the 1930s. It served, it was a service center for PG&E for a number of years and has since served a variety of automobile-based uses in the last couple of decades, since the 80s. As mentioned, current pictures of an auto body shop that currently exists today. And a bird's eye view looking into Railroad Street at the corner of Claremont and 10th. So as Laura mentioned, we've made a few revisions since we started this process, primarily being that since it's a historically protected site, we wanted to retain all buildings and design the project around the existing infrastructure. So working with Jordan Architects, which is our partner and designer on the deal, they too have decades of experience working on projects such as these in self-storage. We've been able to retain all three buildings and build around it and still make the project work for us. So the revision, I think we went through maybe 2 revisions, so this is sort of the round that we're on currently. Laura mentioned that we're in compliance with all the applicable codes that are at play here. Even the cantilever, we're aware of the situation. We actually took note of that and making revisions as we speak to propose during the official entitlement process a FAR compliant building that's under 1.0 FAR, which is the max allowable for the site. But otherwise, we are proposing a project that is parking compliant, setback compliant as it relates to a new building, FAR compliant once we make the revision, and height at 30 feet. This is a kind of a more simpler illustration of kind of in relation to the existing site plan, what we are doing with our proposed plan. So all 3 buildings are to remain. The driveway and the flow of the traffic is to remain coming in and out through Claremont and 10th. So those access points won't be altered. What we are doing is simply working with the empty space that's allotted in between these existing buildings to build a structure that architecturally looks as close to the existing structures as we could do it, given today's construction means and methods. A big portion of this in the pre-application process has been going back and forth in terms of understanding what makes this building historical or considered eligible for historical registry. And so Laura touched on it a little bit, but the architectural features here, corrugated steel roof and siding, the gable-hipped roof forms up top, the open interior truss systems, the existing roll-up garages, the multi-pane steel sash windows, the overall layout of the site plan in terms of traffic and circulation, as noted. So our initial plan here that we're proposing here is that, again, we're keeping all 3 buildings. We will repair and revive as much as we can, but I think it'll be a working coordination with the planning department once we really get going in terms of exactly how we ought to design the project at its final end. However, our intent is to try to match whatever was there in the 30s and try to bring it back to life in a modern way to the extent we can once the project gets going. I would like to speak a little bit about the usage of self-storage and kind of what it entails. So self-storage is one of the lowest traffic generating uses compared to retail, multifamily, office, et cetera. The industry standard is that there's less than 100 trips in any span in a day. Most traffic occurs like late morning, primarily and on the weekends. So it's generally not a high traffic generating usage. What we're also proposing here is that from a market perspective, San Mateo is very underserved from an industry self-storage perspective. So in self-storage, there's a term called a trade area, which is a 3-mile radius from your site, and it's a sort of a metric to gauge the demand level for self-storage in any given market. Here, in where we are situated within a 3-mile radius, we're in a 3.8% vacancy market, meaning 95% or 97+% of self-storage is occupied at any given time, which basically means the demand is very strong and there is more absorption to be had. We did take into account here sort of the demographics and the fact that a lot of residents are around our property here. So what we're proposing here, in addition to typical self-storage lockers like the one that you see on the left image there, which usually consists of hallways with roll-ups on the at ground level and then lockers up top that's accessible through rolling cart ladders like the one you see in the image. But what we intend to add onto here also is actually add about 3,000 to 4,000 square feet of wine storage as well, particularly for those in the nearby market that need a place to store their wine. And so in the self-storage market, the nearest one, I believe, is more closer to San Francisco. So it is something that just doesn't really exist here that we hope to provide when we build the self-storage facility. Aside from that, we work with a nationally recognized operator that you probably will recognize, and it's monitored 24/7. It's looked at 24/7, and it's generally we try to secure it. Access control is controlled or secured in a way where if you're not a customer, you won't be able to get inside the building. So what we do try to do is make sure that we secure these buildings to the best extent that we can. That is it for me. I don't know if I should take questions or how you guys want to do that.
After your presentation, we'll get questions from the public first, and then we'll engage you with our questions.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there is anyone that has a public comment, please raise your hand or turn in your slip, please. Chair Ebnetter, we have one public comment. The timer will be set for 3 minutes. And
Thank you.
our speaker is Pedro.
Okay. My name is Pedro Sarabia. I currently help manage the automotive repair and collision center that's currently at the location. specifically at 926 South Claremont. Just some comments regarding the facility location. There are a lot of businesses next to this location that serve the automotive repair industry. It does work really well for this area because of the 101 that's close by. It is a service-first industry, meaning we have a lot of our clients that are nearby the area. And those two choke points, just a suggestion, however you go about it, they do work as choke points, so maybe adding a third area to kind of maneuver traffic would be my suggestion. And in terms of commercial self-storage, not a huge comment on it, but there's already like an industry there that kind of creates profit that ends up going to the city of San Mateo. So I think it would be great to add on to that, but that's just some comments regarding the actual location and the surrounding area.
Thank you. No online commentators?
We have no online commenters at this time.
Thank you. We'll close the public comment period and bring it to the commission first for questions for both staff and the applicant, if we've got some.
Through the chair, I actually do have a question. If we could pull up the site plan, I'm just curious where the, if somebody could point out where the like truck parking would be, isn't like a U-Haul, that sort of thing. I just want to visualize it. It looked like on the site plan in the packet, I thought I had an idea of where it was, but I just wanted to make sure.
The loading zones?
Yes,
Yes,
thank you.
one moment.
Were they the hatched area?
Yes.
Okay.
1 second. I think this will give you the best.
Okay, and so is there 2 or 1 loading zone based on this?
There's 2, if only
So
there's
one
one
is,
at the blue at the top, and then kind of immediately below, there's one between the green and the purple.
okay. All right, thanks. That's helpful. Just wanted to make sure there was a similar hatch for the accessible parking. So, thank you.
Through the chair, good evening, Manira Sandhir, Planning Manager. I do want to state that this is a preliminary plan. We will have to assess it for site circulation and make sure all of the backing distances and the site circulation is feasible.
Yes, thank you. Okay, yeah, that was the only question I had for staff or the applicant.
Thank you. Ms. Patel?
Thank you, Chair. Do there happen to be any photos of the existing elevations of the buildings?
I do not have any. I think in the applicant presentation, there were some photos, but I don't have any on hand.
Okay, thank you. The Historic Resources report has some from the outside and a few from the interior, but they're very focused on certain areas. And I was just curious how the new elevations compared to the existing elevations, but that's something we can talk about in our discussion.
Thank you. I did visit this site today, and I did meet the gentleman who spoke earlier. Wanted to clarify that. I do have a couple of questions from staff. Are there any minimum requirements for solar at this project?
Yes, it would be through the building code. I don't know how much, but there are minimum, I believe, solar requirements.
Okay. You would hope that they could meet most of their electrical uses, but who knows? Can you show me where the proposed bike path is supposed to be?
It's so small.
It's on Railroad, right?
Claremont.
South Claremont,
South-
yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
thought you said Railroad earlier. All right. And I know that all the requirements have been met and will be met when the FAR is reduced to 0.99, but does that also alleviate the additional, I think, 4 or 5 bicycle parking?
Yes, bicycle parking is predicated on the size of the building, so when the building shrinks, the requirement for bicycle parking also goes
All right.
down.
Okay, those were my only questions at this point. Do we want to go to the slide that has discussion points on it, please?
Yes.
And of course, any items outside of the written discussion items, there's always open for comments. Adam?
I figured I'd go first. I want to thank staff and the applicants for the work you've done so far. I think whatever communication you've had has done this project really well, because I see it and I think it fits quite well, considering what this project is. It's a storage facility, and in my view, this is probably the most attractive storage facility I've ever seen. So, good job on that. As far as the placement of the new structure in relationship to the surrounding context, I also think it's well done. You really don't see it from, you don't see it much from Claremont or 10th. Claremont's going to get the most traffic by far. And what you do see feels appropriate. Obviously, it's not going to be perfectly representing 1930s architecture, but what you've done really ties in well. So kudos to the project team and to the architect in what you've done. This is one of those projects we often have a lot to say on design and such, and this one looks like you've done your homework. You've really worked well to get something that works, and I feel like as far as these input items, great job. I'm curious to see what the rest of the commission thinks, but I think this will definitely get used in this area because there's a lot of people that I even think of. I live not too far away. I would be in the user's shed, and I could think of things that I'd be like, oh, it might be nice to have a storage unit for. And I imagine there's lots of folks, especially as more residents come to the train station areas. Having something within close distance for this would serve them, I'm sure. Yeah.
Through the chair, yes, I agree with Commissioner Nugent. This is the nicest self-storage facility I have ever seen. We often have comments on design, and I have no notes. And I was curious if my fellow commissioners would be in a similar boat. In terms of use, I agree. I think particularly as we are looking at a 20-year plan that includes more development near our Caltrain stations, having a storage facility within that proximity would be well used. I think the only two comments I have, knowing that these are historic resources and knowing that CEQA is going to come to play, CEQA requires that significant and adverse impacts to historic structures be avoided or mitigated if possible. When I see that there's a new building attached to an existing historic building, I am curious and potentially concerned about whether that would qualify as a significant impact, but I am not a CEQA expert, and I assume that
No vengo duro, sino lo que pide este muchacho. Estamos ya muy fuerte lo que ha vivido, ¿no? Muy fuerte.
Thank you. I assume that there will be a CEQA review with staff or with a consultant that will answer that question in a much more informed and educated way than I could. So I'm not really worried about that at this point. And similarly with design, knowing that the intent is to follow the Secretary of the Interior's design standards, you know, my first thought too was it would be nice to have had the side-by-side comparisons of the elevations to know how much of a difference or potential impact there would be to the existing structures. But again, the staff report notes that either staff or a consultant will be working on the project to ensure adherence to the Secretary of Interior's design standards, and those folks are going to be much more educated than I am on the topic and be able to determine if any changes to the facades are going to be significant. So I don't really have a lot of comments on design. In terms of the site plan and the placement of the new structure, I think the one thing I would say is the new building being set back 10 feet from the property line did look a little odd to me, because you have these existing structures that are right up to the property line, and then because it's attached, to have it jog back 10 feet looks strange. That was the only thing that stood out to me. I think the setback on Railroad is nice because it's not attached to a building, and it'll add some greenery to that street, which I think will be pretty pleasant. But personally, I don't think the setback on the property line is necessary. And those were all of my comments.
Through the chair, can I just ask, so that setback is a required part of the zoning code, though, so it would require variance if that changed. Yeah.
Thank you, staff. Great presentation. Thank you, applicant, for your input, and fellow commissioners. I am in concert with both my fellow commissioners. I see this spot, or this building and this application going forward pretty much exactly like it is. I think the site plan works really well. I like the building design. I like the placement. I like the lighting. I think it just works. And it is going to be well used. There always is a trade-off in a built environment. We will be losing some automotive jobs, unfortunately, and that will have an impact on different people's lives. And so that's always a concern when you're changing a use. And we will be losing some employment. That won't be generated by a storage facility, but that's the nature of change. I like the project. I hope that it goes through relatively quickly, and that we'll see you back here sometime in 2025. Any other comments? Great. We'll close this item and move on to item number 2.
Chair Ebnetter, item 2, we have election of officers.
Thank you very much. After staff introduces the item, ask if someone would like to make a nomination for chair and/or vice chair. Prior to proceeding, I'd like to just make a very brief statement, and that I've been honored over the last year to humbly serve as the chair of this commission, and staff and commission and applicants have made this job really pleasurable, especially my commissioners always being so professional, always having the public's interest at heart in all of your decisions, and showing, utmost respect to not only staff and applicants, but more importantly, or just importantly, to the public. So you guys have made my year highly enjoyable, and I wanted to thank you and the other two commissioners, unfortunately, who are not here, for making this an enjoyable experience for me. And again, mostly being such a commission with such high moral standards, is incredible. With that said, can we please go on with item number 2?
Yes, thank you. I think my role is very limited here, as it's really up to the commissioners to nominate for the chair and vice chair position. We have attached the boards and commissions rules and procedures to the staff report, so hopefully the commission had a chance to review those. As noted, this is an annual step. We rotate or nominate new chairs and vice chairs every year, close to the June 10th date. While Chair Ebneter will continue to chair tonight's meeting, the change would take effect starting next regularly scheduled meeting. Thank you.
Okay, I was lax in my duties, and I did not read that component. So who gets elected first, the vice chair or the chair?
I think you can start with the chair.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, you can also do one motion if you like. So if you'd like to make the nomination simultaneously, you could do that as well.
Since this is a little unique where there's only 3 of us here, would it be fine for me to make the recommendation? Okay, in that case, I would like to recommend to take the chair, Seema Patel. And secondly, I would like the vice chair to be Adam Nugent. And do we have seconds here?
I'll second that.
Great. Can we take a vote, please?
Chair Ebneter,
Yes.
Vice Chair Patel,
Yes.
and Commissioner Nugent.
Yes.
Passes unanimously 3-0. Congratulations. That was a weird one. Okay. We'll move on to announcements.
Yes, thank you. I also wanted to thank you, Chair Ebneter, for leading this commission. I know this has been an exciting year for the Planning Commission, so really appreciate your service and dedication. I will say, so I know Vice Chair Patel, and now to be Chair Patel, is familiar with our process, but Commissioner Nugent will be reaching out to schedule some prep meetings. We typically have a prep meeting the Monday of the Planning Commission week, so I'll schedule that, or we'll work with Ashley to schedule those. I did want to note that I will be out of town starting this Thursday until early July, and our director, Zach Dahl, will be the Planning Commission liaison during my absence, so if any needs come up, please coordinate directly with him. We also have a vacancy on the commission, as you know, and we have interviews scheduled for tomorrow night. So we're hoping that there will be an appointment made shortly so that the commission is whole again. We will keep you posted as that progresses. For our next meeting, June 25th, we only have the one business item. It's going to be a study session as well. This is for the Block 20 project. It's a project by Windy Hill that's proposed in downtown. It's a mixed-use project and was previously the full block, but now it has been revised to be a partial block to preserve some of the historic resources that were on that site. So we'll be doing a study session for that, even though the application is ongoing. We may be looking at a potential cancellation on July 9th, so we should be able to confirm that by the end of the week. And so that meeting or that time will open up on your calendars. Those were all of staff's updates. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any announcements from the vice chair or the chair? No?
No.
Great. We'll close this meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.